Most people overestimate what they can do in a week and underestimate what they can do in 5 years. The tragedy of life is not that it ends too soon, it's that most people wait too long to start living it. They wait for the perfect time, the perfect feeling, the perfect answer, and in doing so, they sacrifice the only real wealth they have, time. Time is not neutral. It either serves you or it subtracts from you. And how it serves you depends on what you do with it. Every hour spent drifting, delaying, or doubting is an hour that could have been planting seeds for your future. You don't get that time back, but you do get to choose what you'll do with the time that's still in front of you. The wealthy do the opposite. They move with intention. They don't chase after every opportunity. They choose the few that align with their philosophy. They don't sprint toward quick wins. They walk daily toward long-term value. They trade hustle for harmony, pressure for principle, and speed for sustainability. They understand that life isn't just about going fast, it's about going far. And you don't go far without clarity of purpose and consistency of action. The truth is, most people are busy. But the question is, busy doing what? Chasing, reacting, consuming, or building, thinking, growing? That's the divide. That's the secret. The poor mindset runs from discomfort and rushes toward distractions. The wealthy mindset sits with clarity, works daily, grows slowly, and refuses to measure success by applause or speed. Because real wealth is a consequence of what you think about, what you act on, and what you repeat. The difference is almost invisible in the beginning. But given 5 years, 10 years, it becomes monumental. So ask yourself, not what you can do this week, but who you can become in the next 5 years if you start today. If you build slowly, think clearly, and act daily. No drama, no magic, no miracle, just discipline and vision over time. That's how the wealthy operate. They master time instead of chasing it. They compound their actions instead of restarting every Monday. They don't wish for change. They become the kind of person who creates it. And that path, it's open to you too, starting now. You know, one of the great tragedies in life is not the lack of talent or opportunity, it's the lack of focus. The world is filled with gifted people who never see their dreams come true simply because they never learn to hold their attention on one thing long enough for it to grow. And here's what I found. The human mind, left undirected, is like a garden left unattended. Weeds grow automatically. But the harvest, now that takes work. It takes care. It takes clarity. So the first step to growing the life you want is to know exactly what that life looks like. Write it down. Not someday, not next month. Write it today. Don't trust your mind to remember. Your dream it forgets under pressure. It forgets in traffic. It forgets when the bills show up. But paper remembers. Write down your goals as if they were blueprints for your future, because they are. How much do you want to earn? By when? What kind of lifestyle do you want? What kind of person must you become to live that life? When I began this journey, I didn't start with a fortune. I started with a journal. I wrote the future before I lived it. Then, review it daily. Not just once and hope the universe delivers it. Look at it every morning and every evening. Why? Because repetition programs belief, and belief drives behavior. When your goals become a part of your daily awareness, your daily decisions begin to align. You begin to say no to things that once distracted you because your vision becomes clearer than your temptations. And here's a truth I learned the hard way. If you don't run your day by design, your day will run you by default. And distractions, they're experts at stealing dreams. Social media, idle talk, unnecessary obligations, none of these will write you a check at the end of the month. So ask yourself daily, is this helping me or holding me? Remove distractions that don't match your vision. Clean your calendar. Clean your mind. If it's not feeding your future, it's draining your destiny. Discipline doesn't begin with giant sacrifices. It begins with tiny edits to your environment. Keep only what aligns. That's what the wealthy do. They guard their focus like a treasure because they know it leads to treasure. The mind, when focused, becomes a magnet for solutions, ideas, and breakthroughs. You don't have to chase success, you only have to stay aligned with it long enough for it to arrive. If you want to change your income, you have to first change your philosophy, because the truth is, your current financial life is simply a reflection of your current financial thinking. And the good news is, thinking can be changed. You don't need to win the lottery or wait for a lucky break. You need to build a new mindset tone that attracts wealth, not repels it. And it starts with one word: environment. You become the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with, not just in income, but in attitude, discipline, and expectations. Spend time around people who complain, who believe life is unfair, who mock ambition, and soon you'll find yourself making the same excuses they do. But get around people who talk about ideas, who read books, who take responsibility for their future, and your standards begin to shift. I know, because it happened to me. I remember sitting in rooms where I didn't understand half the words they were using. But I kept showing up, I kept listening, I kept learning. Eventually, the language of wealth became my language too. Surround yourself with books that teach abundance, not limitation. Books that stretch your thinking and strengthen your discipline. The pages of a good book are some of the cheapest mentors you'll ever find. I made it a habit to read a little every day, 15 minutes, 10 pages. Books on business, finance, philosophy. The words of wise men became my companions. When you change what goes into your mind, you change what comes out of your life. If you feed your mind with greatness, it starts rejecting mediocrity, and ideas guard the ones you accept. Poor thinkers say, money is the root of all evil. The wealthy know that the love of money, not money itself, is the issue. Poor thinkers say, the rich get richer. The wealthy say, anyone can get richer if they're willing to grow. Replace toxic ideas with empowering ones. Replace blame with responsibility. Replace lack with strategy. That's how the shift happens. Not all at once, but through 1,000 little upgrades to your beliefs. When you commit to an environment that lifts your thinking, wealth becomes less of a mystery and more of a method. You stop looking for shortcuts and start building strength. Because wealth isn't an event, it's a mindset. And when you change that, everything changes. Let's walk through this, the way success teaches us, slow, steady, and smart. See, minimizing risk isn't about avoiding action altogether. It's not about sitting on your hands and waiting for perfect conditions. No, that's not wealth thinking. That's fear pretending to be wisdom. The real secret to minimizing risk is to increase understanding. Because when you understand what you're doing, you're not gambling, you're strategizing, and there's a world of difference between the two. The mistake most people make is they chase opportunity without preparation. They hear a friend made money in stocks or crypto or real estate, and they rush in with excitement but no education. And what happens? Most of the time they lose. Then they say the game is rigged, or they say this stuff isn't for me. But it wasn't the investment that failed, it was the lack of understanding. That's why the wealthy take a different approach. They study before they leap. They ask questions. They start small. They dip their toe in the water before diving in. I remember when I made my first small investment tea. Wasn't much, just a few $100s in a mutual fund. But that little step taught me something more valuable than any return. It taught me how the system worked. I read the reports. I tracked performance. I listened to investor calls. That first step opened the door to a new mindset. And once you learn the language of money, you're no longer a stranger to it. You become a participant in your own financial story. So if you want to reduce risk, don't just hand your money to someone else and hope. That's not a strategy, it's a surrender. Instead, take ownership. Never invest in something you don't understand. It doesn't matter if everyone else is doing it. It doesn't matter if your neighbor made a fortune with it. If you don't get it, don't do it yet. Learn first. Read books. Watch interviews. Attend a seminar. Talk to people who've been in it for years. Knowledge reduces risk. Clarity increases confidence. And don't start big, start small. If the investment is good, a small return will show you the pattern. And once you've learned the terrain, then and only then should you scale. This is how you protect yourself from major losses while still keeping yourself in the game. Because the game of wealth is not won by those who never make mistakes, it's won by those who learn faster than they lose. So remember, the first rule of wealth is not get rich quick. It's get wise steadily. That's the mindset that makes risk your teacher, not your enemy. Simplicity is powerful. One of the greatest financial lessons I ever learned was this: complexity creates confusion, but simplicity creates clarity, and clarity leads to action. Most people don't have a money problem. They have a clarity problem. They don't know where their money goes, so they assume they don't have enough. But the truth is, if you can count it, you can control it. And that's where a simple budget comes in, not just as a financial tool, but as a daily practice of discipline. When I started taking my financial life seriously, someone wise told me, don't wait to earn more to start managing better. Start managing what you already have. That struck me. I didn't have a lot at the time, but I did have choices. So I created a very simple system. Every dollar I earned, I gave it a job. I divided it into categories: needs, savings, investments, and giving. That way, I didn't just spend, I spent with structure. I didn't just hope to save, I saved on purpose. The key is to assign percentages, not complicated spreadsheets, just percentages that guide your behavior. Maybe 60% for needs, 10% for savings, 10% for investments, 10% for giving, and 10% for learning or enjoyment. You can adjust based on your life, but the habit is more important than the numbers. Because a budget isn't punishment, it's purpose. A budget is what gives you the power to tell your money what to do instead of wondering where it went. I used to think that budgeting meant restriction, that it would take the fun out of life. But I found the opposite to be true. Once I started reviewing my budget every month, I felt in control. And there's no peace quite like financial peace, when you know where you stand, when you know what's coming in and what's going out, and when you see progress month by month. That's where confidence grows. And with confidence comes better decisions. I've met folks who've earned six figures and still feel broke. Why? No plan. I've also met people earning modest incomes who built impressive savings and investment portfolios. Why? Because they mastered the basics. They understood that financial freedom isn't about making more, it's about managing better. And the moment you begin managing well, you create a foundation that can carry more. So, keep it simple, make it visual. Track your money like your future depends on it, because it does. When I first began taking control of my financial life, one of the most powerful lessons I learned was this: you can't make bold moves if your life is held together by a thread. It's hard to dream big when you're worried about a flat tire, a medical bill, or losing your job. That's why the wealthy don't just build fortunes, they build cushions. And that cushion, my friend, is called an emergency fund. Peace of mind is the soil in which risk can grow. You see, most people are just one unexpected problem away from financial disaster. Not because they're lazy, not because they don't earn enough, but because they never built the habit of setting something aside for the unknown. And the unknown will visit all of us. It knocks at everyone's door eventually, so the question isn't if, but when. And when it does, you want to meet it prepared, not panicked. Start small. Start where you are. Begin with a $1,000 emergency fund. That may not seem like much, but it's the mental shift that counts. You're telling your money, from now on, I'm the boss. You're building the habit of setting aside, of thinking long-term, of trading short-term comfort for long-term security. And once you've hit that first 1,000, don't stop there. Slowly and steadily, work your way up to 3 to 6 months of living expenses. Now, here's why that matters. Let's say your monthly expenses, rent, groceries, bills come to $2,500. 3 months would be $7,500. 6 months, $15,000. When you've got that set aside, guess what you now have? Options. You can weather a job loss. You can leave a toxic work environment. You can start a business without risking your family's well-being. That kind of peace isn't just practical, it's powerful. It changes how you walk, how you talk, how you negotiate, and how you make decisions. I remember a season in my own life where I didn't have that cushion. Every phone call made me anxious. Every delay in payment made me nervous. I wasn't thinking about opportunity, I was thinking about survival. But once I built that buffer, the world felt different. I could finally look ahead instead of down. And that's when the bigger opportunities began to show up. Don't confuse the emergency fund with an investment. This isn't money to grow, it's money to protect. Keep it in a safe, accessible place, separate from your checking. Not in stocks, not in risky places, just accessible. Because when life throws you a curveball, you want to catch it with a glove, not your bare hands. So, if you haven't started, start today. $20, $50, $100, whatever you can. Because this one habit doesn't just buy you security, it buys you freedom to act with courage when the moment arrives. When it comes to building wealth, one of the most dangerous habits is spending money emotionally. Impulse spending is a silent thief. It doesn't steal in one grand heist, but in 1,000 quiet whispers. It creeps in with words like, I deserve it, it's only once, or everyone else has one. But if you don't master it, it will master you. And soon, the money meant for freedom will be lost chasing feelings that vanish as quickly as they came. Here's the strategy that changed everything for me. I started practicing what I call the waiting rule. Before making any significant purchase, whether it was a new gadget, clothing, even furniture, I forced myself to wait 24 to 72 hours. Not because I didn't want it, but because I wanted to see if I still wanted it after the feeling wore off. And 9 times out of 10, I didn't. That time created a space between emotion and decision, and in that space, I found my power. You see, the poor mindset asks, can I afford the payment? The wealthy mindset asks, is this the wisest use of my money? And that's the difference, because not everything affordable is worth owning. What you buy today either becomes a tool for freedom or an anchor of regret, and it's easy to confuse excitement with value. But excitement fades while debt lingers. So we must become masters of pause. There was a time in my life when I'd spend emotionally just to feel progress. I bought things I didn't need to impress people I didn't know with money I hadn't earned, and I felt worse afterward. But once I learned to wait, I noticed something else. I began to feel proud of my control, not ashamed of my cravings. I started using my money with intention, not desperation. And little by little, that control turned into surplus. That surplus turned into savings. That savings turned into investment. And that investment turned into freedom. Now, this doesn't mean you can't ever enjoy what you earn, but it means you must own your decisions. Buy what serves your vision, not your impulse. Delay is not denial, it's wisdom. That pause, that extra day or two, is where clarity lives. And the clearer you are, the wealthier you become. So the next time you feel that urge to swipe, click, or spend, ask yourself, will this still matter tomorrow? Next week? Next year? Wait, breathe, think. Because in that stillness, you begin to reclaim control, and control is the seed of all financial freedom. There's something extraordinary about the act of giving, not because it reduces your bank account, but because it multiplies your capacity. You see, money is like water. It stagnates when hoarded, but flows freely when released. Most people believe generosity is for the wealthy, but it's the generous who often become wealthy. That's the paradox. The hand that opens to give is the same hand that's ready to receive. When you give from what you have, you signal to the universe, to your subconscious, and to your habits that you live in abundance, not lack. I learned this lesson early in life when I was still struggling to pay the bills. A mentor once told me, give even when it hurts, because if you don't give from your little, you won't give from your plenty. I didn't understand it at first. I thought, how can I give when I don't even have enough for myself? But I tried it. I gave $5 from my pocket, the only $5 I had, and something shifted not in the world, but in me. I no longer saw myself as broke. I saw myself as a steward, a giver, a channel of value, not just a collector of dollars. Giving trains the mind to think in terms of more than enough. And when you think that way, you behave differently. You don't make desperate choices. You're not trapped in fear, you're free. And that mindset of freedom, of responsibility, of stewardship is the very mindset that builds wealth. Not the kind you flash, but the kind you sustain. Now, I'm not telling you how much to give. That's between you and your values. But I am saying give something. 10% is a great place to start. Give to a cause you believe in. Support someone in need. Share knowledge with no strings attached. Generosity isn't just about money, it's a way of life. It's holding the door open, mentoring someone younger, tipping the waiter a little extra, or taking the time to speak life into someone who's lost theirs. In my life, every time I gave time, energy, or finances, I received something back, not always in the same form, but always in greater measure. A new opportunity, a new connection, a deeper peace. Generosity returns with interest, though not always in the currency we expect. So practice it daily, not because you have to, but because you can. And the more you do, the more you'll realize that money isn't just a tool, it's a test. And those who pass that test become not just rich in wealth, but rich in spirit. There's a reason why the end of your day is just as powerful as the beginning. It's not enough to start with enthusiasm, you have to finish with resolve. See, a lot of people get excited in the morning. They read a quote, watch a video, set a goal, but by lunchtime they've forgotten. By evening they've surrendered to comfort. That's not how wealth is built. Wealth belongs to those who finish strong. Now, how do you finish strong? You begin with a commitment, not a vague wish or casual interest, a commitment. Something written down, something real. When you wake up, you decide what kind of person you're going to be today. You choose it deliberately, and then as the hours unfold, you act accordingly. Because if you don't act on your intentions, your day will be hijacked by distractions. The urgent will rob you of the important. But the real test comes at the end. Most people end their day by collapsing into bed. They never reflect, never recalibrate, never take ownership of what they did or didn't do. The wealthy do something different. They review. They ask, did I honor my word today? Did I move my life forward? What did I do well? What needs to improve tomorrow? That habit-off daily review is the compass that keeps them aligned. It's what transforms mistakes into lessons and lessons into wisdom. I learned to do this when I was young and trying to rebuild my life. At first, I would beat myself up over what I didn't do, but that didn't help. What helped was asking honest, constructive questions. I'd say, what did I promise myself today? Then I'd look at the result. Some days I won, some days I stumbled. But because I reviewed, I never drifted. I stayed in the game. And here's the key. When you do this consistently, something shifts inside you. You build trust with yourself. You start to believe your own word. And when you trust yourself, you follow through. You stop quitting early. You stop chasing shiny things. You stay with the thing long enough to see it grow. That's where wealth lives in finishing. So if you want to end rich, start by ending each day rich. In effort, in clarity, in accountability. Begin with a commitment, end with a review. Do that, and you'll finish strong not just today, but for life. Now here's where it all comes together. The journey to wealth, to fulfillment, to living a life of meaning, it doesn't require genius. It doesn't demand perfection. It asks for consistency. It asks for intention. And it rewards those who are willing to show up daily with purpose and discipline. Wealth is not found in one grand decision. It's built brick by brick, habit by habit, thought by thought. So let me ask you, what will you do today? Not tomorrow, not someday, today. Will you write down your goal? Will you review your budget? Will you save instead of spend, learn instead of scroll, act instead of wish? You don't have to overhaul your life overnight, but you do have to take responsibility. You do have to choose the direction. And the beauty once you begin, momentum joins you. The day you plant the seed is not the day you eat the fruit, but plant it anyway, water it daily, trust the process. Your future's waiting. Not just the one you dream of, but the one you're building every day with your choices. So think clearly, act daily, grow rich slowly, and begin right now, because now is the only time wealth has ever been built.